If you've ever tried filmmaking at any level, you'll know that even though it might look like just making pretty pictures to outsiders, the reality is that it's both highly physical and mentally challenging. Being out on a shoot means being away from the creature comforts of home, and sometimes, like on the shoot I'm on right now in the Arctic, that could last for months. I mean, I've been up here for over 3 months already. That amount of time without your regular routine can make it way too easy to just spiral into negative habits, which are not only bad for your health, but can also have a big impact on your creativity and your storytelling. If you don't feel good, whether that's physically or mentally, you're just not going to do your best work. That makes creating a solid pre-shoot morning routine when you're on location super important if you want to stay sane and feel good. Because if you nail the start of the day, odds are the rest of the shoot are going to go well too. Dun, 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 dun. Luckily, over the last 15 years of professional photography and filmmaking, I've experimented with pretty much every fad morning routine the internet has to offer, and I finally settled on a 5-step bulletproof morning routine that's scalable, keeps me feeling good, and in the right headspace to tackle all the issues and challenges filmmaking throws my way on a daily basis. So let's get right into it. My day here usually starts somewhere between 5 or 5:30 in the morning, depending on what time I wake up, and getting up early is the first step in this routine. After 3 months of doing this every day, I don't even really need to set an alarm anymore, though I'll still film one going off because what would a YouTube video about an early morning routine be without that shot? I get out of bed pretty quickly and I almost never hit the snooze button. Then I slip on my Crocs, which I have mixed feelings about. On one hand, they're the best and most comfortable base camp slippers I've ever found, and they seem to be nearly indestructible. But on the other hand, I'm embarrassed by them and I don't like to be seen in public with them. But since we're out here in the middle of nowhere and after 3 months, I'm way beyond caring what other people think, so I'll just wear them shamelessly. From here, I stagger around getting dressed, and then I head up this dark hallway to the kitchen where I chug as much water as I can handle and then fill up my thermos with hot industrial strength coffee. There is a fancier espresso machine here, but I honestly can't be bothered, and I've never had very refined taste when it comes to coffee anyways. And quick pro tip, if you work in film and drink coffee, buying yourself a good thermos is such a great investment. I've had this one from Yeti for almost 5 years now, and it comes with me everywhere. I personally like the ones that have a fully sealed lid over the sippy cup kind because it means I can just throw it in my bag without ever worrying about spilling, but to each their own. So I guess something I should say here is that there's no real reason for me to be up this early, except for the fact that making time for a morning routine is important to me, especially on long shoots like this. The normal call time up here is a really comfortable 9 a.m., so there isn't really any reason for me to be up this early. I could easily sleep in a lot longer and just roll right out of bed into the morning meeting, but for me, that doesn't work best. Once the day starts here, it can be non-stop until it's time to go to bed, and if I want to do other things for myself and feel like I have a bit of a life outside of work, the morning is the only guaranteed time I can make that happen. Even on shoots with much earlier start times, I'd still set my alarm for an hour or two earlier just to get this routine in because I really do feel so much better than when I wake up and just immediately start working. Now, obviously, if it's a super late wrap time and a really early call time, then I'm going to modify things a bit. But as long as I can get in around 7 hours of sleep, I'll try to wake up at least an hour and a half before I need to, just so I can get this whole routine done. If it's not possible to get a decent night's sleep and wake up 90 minutes before call time, I'll condense things and make it shorter where it needs to be. Having a good routine shouldn't be about all or nothing, so don't think that because you only have 45 minutes instead of 90, you should just give up and doom scroll in bed instead. Just do some things a little bit faster and cut out the parts that don't fit. And if you can't do it at all, that's fine too. Don't beat yourself up, just try again the next day. But in a perfect world, 90 minutes will make a huge difference in the overall quality of my mood for the day, and since no one likes working with grumpy people, it's just a win for everybody on the crew. The second phase of my routine is probably my favorite part of the day, whether I'm traveling for a shoot or even just sitting at home, and that's reading. I love reading in general, and I always have, and it's also great training for your storyteller's brain because books are the oldest form of recording stories that we have. So for the next, half an hour or so, I'll work my way through this entire thermos of coffee while I read. Usually I go with a fiction book and I'll save the heavier nonfiction for the afternoon when I'm a bit more awake, but that's not a rule or anything. By the time I close the book, my my thoughts are flowing well, usually, hopefully, and I'm more or less ready for a human conversation. Or maybe it's just the effects of downing half a liter of coffee. Either way, I love reading in the morning, and if you can make even 10 minutes for it, I personally think it's a great mental boost and an awesome way to start the day. It also gives me a little bit of quiet time to myself because most of the crew still hasn't woken up yet, and after more than 3 months with the same 20 people, that's important. Then it's time for the third step, and this one is the hardest, the part that I try and convince myself to skip over almost every day, but is probably the most important of all. Okay, so now I'm in the gym, but really it's just the corner of the maintenance room, and the groundskeepers here just let us put some mats and a bit of exercise equipment in here. I feel like people never talk about the physical aspects of filmmaking, but in my experience, at least in the documentary world, you kind of need to be in halfway decent shape to do the job well. And I'm not talking about bro splits and six packs, because obviously those things don't apply to me at all, but the reality is that it's going to be tough to keep up the pace of a high-level documentary shoot if you don't have a base level of strength and stamina. Maybe some docs out there film inside an air-conditioned studio, but for the most part, telling great stories about the real world requires you to actually get out into the real world. And if you're also carrying a 25-pound cinema rig, a tripod, and a bag of lenses while you're doing it, it can get really tiring really fast if you're not ready for it. That's why the third phase of my morning routine is always to get in some sort of exercise. Or really, we should call it training, because that's what it is. If you throw out your back like I did a couple of years ago and can't work for 6 months, or if you tweak your shoulder because a Pelican case is too heavy for you, or if you can't keep up with your character's walking speed or whatever, you're not doing your job to the best of your ability. And because there's often no gyms in the places I stay, these days I pretty much always travel with the same 2 tools so I can get some resistance training in no matter where I am. The first is a TRX style suspension trainer, and the second is a heavy-duty sandbag. If you've never used a suspension trainer, it's pretty simple. It just anchors into a door frame and you can do all sorts of things with it. If you want to increase or decrease the resistance, all you need to do is move closer or further away from the anchor point. It packs up super small, it weighs almost nothing, and if you had nothing else around, you could still get an awesome workout with just this thing. The sandbag is an added bonus because in remote locations, it can be really hard to get access to weights. This bag has a couple of smaller sealed bags inside, and when you fill them both with sand, you can get up to 70 pounds in here. So I fly with it empty, and when I get to the location, I just shovel dirt or sand or gravel or whatever inside, and you have an instant all-in-one gym in a bag. I don't work out in the conventional bodybuilding sense of doing bicep curls or 500-pound deadlifts or things like that. Instead, I typically try to focus on full body movements that replicate the kinds of things I might actually be doing while working. Super simple, and if you get a decent one, it should last way longer than that shiny new cinema body you just bought on credit. But whether or not you use any of this stuff, exercising will make you better at your job, period. In a physical sense, you'll be able to shoot longer, carry your gear into tougher places, and be less prone to injury. On the mental side, it will help you with sleep, stress reduction, and you'll just overall feel better. So even if you ignore every other part of this routine, don't skip exercising. Your body and your mind will thank you. Now that I'm done in here, I'll grab a shower and head back to my room for the last 2 parts of this morning routine. And because I've been filming all this stuff today, I'm a bit behind schedule, so I'm gonna have to hurry because it's almost time to get to work. All right, so it's been a bit over an hour since I woke up now, and I managed to caffeinate, read, and get a workout in. In the last 20 minutes or so before the general crew call, there's 2 more quick things that I like to get done that will start the day off right. The first one is to journal, and I'm not talking about a Dear Diary sort of journal, but more of a thought dump exercise that helps me start the day with a clear head. Filmmaking, especially when you've been on location for months on end, can get really mentally tiring, and all the little interpersonal tensions with other people, the dwelling on mistakes and stressing about scenes to come or missing shots, that can all build up in your head. Like, maybe someone was rude to you the other day. The worst thing you can do is let those negative thoughts bounce around in your head until you can't let them go. Just spitting them out quickly on paper or digital paper can be a great way to get them out of your mind so that you can move on. And it's not just all about negative stuff. A journal is also a great place to celebrate positive things like a good day on set or experiencing an amazing sunset with the crew. In just 5 to 10 minutes of writing, I can get everything out of my head and dump it out onto my computer, and for me, it's made a huge difference. So don't feel like you need need to pour your heart out or dish about your love life, though feel free if that's what you're thinking about. It's just a place to say all the things you're thinking but don't want to say out loud, or maybe you don't have anyone to say them out loud to. And the act of getting it out there can be really freeing. I use an app called Day One that I've had for about 8 years, and it's great because it tracks everything on a calendar and a map, so I can sort things by days of the year or location.
This is another day in paradise.
It's fun to go back and look at where I was on a certain day 5 years ago and see maybe a post from Europe or Africa, and then another one up here now in the Arctic. The very last step in the routine is a quick meditation. And before you groan and click off, just hear me out. These days you hear about meditation everywhere, and it can feel like it's some trend for tech bros or podcasters looking for inner peace. But it's not really about finding a perfect state of Zen. It's about recognizing where your thoughts are leading you and stopping yourself from acting on impulses. At its most basic, meditation is just trying to focus on your breathing until a thought interrupts things, which it does for me all the time, like every 5 to 10 seconds. The magic isn't from stopping these thoughts from coming, because that's not the point. It's about identifying that you're thinking about something, then looking at that thought without judgment, and then letting it pass. For filmmakers, this is a superpower. Life on set, especially when people have been away from their families for like a quarter of a year, can be a pressure cooker. You have a lot of responsibility, you're working long hours, and on a long enough timeline, people's tempers can wear thin. It can be really tempting to lash out at that PA who forgot to, pack the Sharpies, or make a sarcastic comment to the director about a shot you disagree with. But that's not the way to build a solid network in a long career. You don't want to let your impulses or emotions dictate your behavior. You want to be able to stay calm and thoughtful even when things are going 100 miles an hour all around you. And for me, that's what meditation is all about. I still get mad when things go wrong, but before I start yelling, I'm able to notice what's happening in my mind, take a step back, and make a better next move. That's all. It's not about reaching enlightenment. It's about seeing your own thoughts clearly. And that's so important in an environment like this. You can learn how it works through an app or a book or a YouTube video. You can pay a bunch of money for a cool program or use a free timer. It can be simple or high tech. It's up to you and what you like. But figuring out how to understand what's happening in your own brain is well worth 10 minutes. And for me, it's the best close to a perfect morning routine on set. And that's it. A 5-step morning routine to keep you grounded and healthy on long shoots. I do pretty much the same thing in my normal life, but when I'm out on location, it's even more important. If you do anything differently, let me know in the comments. But now I gotta go because the morning meeting is about to start and I need to start shooting. See ya.